Hi everybody, hope everybody's well. I just thought I'll pick up some of the themes that I've been seeing on the Facebook group, and I put some polling out last week asking people around their plans for next year, 2021, and what are the kind of key strategies they are hoping to follow. There was quite a few themes, bearing in mind title splitting is a big part of our Facebook group, but there are other themes that came out which would be sensible for me to cover. So I thought I'll put this video out today to basically share a few more kind of other strategies that are out there that people who are thinking about maybe changing tack, going from vanilla buy-to-let to do something else. So in terms of key strategies, the plan for this video is to talk about really kind of 8 key strategies that I think that are available out there that are good and relatively lucrative. And then I would also talk about the tactics around how you buy them and how do you finance them. So here goes. So the first one is, your vanilla buy-to-let. You buy a house, standard single buy-to-let house. You rent it out, you get an interest only mortgage, and then the difference between what you rent it for less the interest only mortgage payment and a few other kind of bills is what you retain as monthly profit. The challenge is, on average, let's say, from my perspective, the average buy to let I'll have will yield about £400 net before tax per house. The main thing is really, if you're trying to replace your income or create a healthy passive income amount, you're talking quite a lot of £400 worth of units. Spoke to somebody yesterday, one of my mentees. His goal is to get up to £4,000 worth of income per month. We're talking 10 of those buy-to-let, vanilla buy-to-let purchases. So you can be done, but you need a lot more volume of £400 per unit to make your goal of passive income being more sustainable. So that's your simple vanilla buy-to-let that everybody knows, sees on Homes Under the Hammer, and if you remember Property Ladder and things like that. The next one up is HMOs, so house of multiple occupation. So if people, I'm sure people who are viewing this already know what this is, but this is an idea that you take one house, so instead of renting it as one single family unit rental, you take the house, which is big enough to then create 5, 6, or if you go over 7 units, you need to start planning permission, but on average, let's say between 5 and 6 rooms that you can rent within that house. On average, you can rent each room between 400 to 500 depending where you are. Sometimes in London it's going to be a lot more, but let's say the average price is £400 up and down the country. So you take 5 rooms times £400, you are renting that whole house as a HMO for £2,000. On average, your cost will be a mortgage. On average, let's say it's £500 per month on interest only, and the other cost will be all your utility bills and your cost of maintenance. So let's say it's another £500. So out of £1,000, you take away 500 for your mortgage, 500 utilities and maintenance. So you're then yielding around £1,000 per month per HMO. So already this is almost double the amount that you can make from a buy-to-let, single-let property. In terms of deposit, in terms of purchase price, sometimes you find that they're very similar in values. But the challenge with HMO, you need to know what you're doing. You need to be educated around the licensing, the rules and regulations, the management part. And it is a full-time job. It is by no means passive income if you are going to then manage it yourself. You can find they're quite few and far between, but you can find some agents that do them, but whether they're going to do it the best way for you, and then also they're going to charge you a lot more than just renting a vanilla buy-to-let. And your worst thing in HMO is having vacancies. So I operate on 95% of my rooms rented at 95% of the time. So we operate over 100 rooms, and that's how we make it work. But I've got 2 guys full-time working on it to make sure that those metrics are met. So in summary, HMO, a bit more complex, but more rental income coming in, a bit more management, but nonetheless, if you were going to try and replace your £4,000 income in that scenario, you're looking at 4 of those versus 10 of the buy-to-let, vanilla buy-to-let properties that I spoke about earlier on. The next one after that, next strategy is title splitting. So this is where you find good value freehold blocks where they are undervalued as a whole block. And the idea is you take those blocks, you do something to them, whether it's refurbishing, rejigging, and or hopefully not, but you want to do as least as possible to create as much as possible value in the least amount of time. Create leases on them, so you take one freehold, you break them into chunks of leasehold, and the idea that the single leasehold, when you times them together, they add up to more than the value of the one freehold. And that difference between what you pay for the whole block versus the singular itemized leasehold, when you see the two difference, the idea is the leaseholds added together, when you sell them or you revalue them, they're going to be much higher than what you paid for, and that difference is actually your profit. And in terms of freehold blocks, I operate mainly in southeast of England and London. They don't come cheap, but the margins are pretty decent as well. If you get it right, you buy the right block, you do the right works, you do it quickly enough, and you refinance them quickly enough, you tend to either leave no money or very little money behind, but also you can release quite a large amount of profits, I guess, from those strategies. And as you know, if you're watching this from my Facebook group, you're already on it. I've got Facebook title splitting group. It's called Title Splitting Properties, and also I post a lot of videos on YouTube, on my Instagram Quiddity Group, my YouTube channel Quiddity Group, and also I've written 2 books. In fact, I've actually written a book recently, December 2020, around title splitting. It's called Grow Your Property Wealth with Title Splitting, and it's available for $8.99 on Amazon as we speak. So title splitting is the third one as a strategy. The fourth one out of 8 is commercial conversion. So here you're buying a commercial conversion, sometimes a mixed use commercial property, maybe a shop underneath and some storage unit upstairs, and then you seek planning permission, and there's some new changes that are being proposed at the moment around planning permission rules and classes. So where before you used to have to there was loads of classes of commercial properties, now they're trying to aggregate them into one, and then that one class will be allowed to convert into residential properties much easier. So that's going through as we speak in December. The consultation ends in January. We expect this to go through with a bit of backlash, but nonetheless I think it will go through. So that means it will be easier to buy and convert commercial properties into residential if you follow what that consultation document prescribes. So commercial conversion is actually quite lucrative in itself, because you're buying commercials that are not wanted, has been laying dormant and not been used for a while, so their value is actually reduced. There's no kind of rental income sometimes on them, so you probably might have to buy them cash over a bridge. But the idea is you get planning permission, or if you got permitted development, which is pre-approved planning by the government that it fits those criteria, you can convert them into residential and turn them back into homes that people can buy and rent, and thereby making large profit returns as well. So commercial conversion is my 4th strategy that I prescribe for 2021. 5th one is is your box standard buy and flip. So here you're buying a house, flat, or whatever you want, adding value to it. And there are 2 kind of main ways and easy ways, if people are coming into it, to do is to buy end of terrace houses and add a side extension to it, or buy a house with no loft. So buy below market value in a decent area and add a loft extension to it with a full refurbishment. So those will be quite easy buy and flip, but the key thing is, again, buying the right price. Remember, you always have to make money on the way in, not on the way out, because on the way out the market has changed, the economic situation might have changed, the lenders are finding it hard to lend, etc., etc. So you can get stuck in deals if you're trying to make money only on the way out and hoping for a market boom. So I would advise against that. The 6th one is rent to rent. So you would have heard this. It's not something that I do myself, but this is where you may not have the capital to buy the house yourself, so you rent a landlord's house and you guarantee their income for say 3 to 5 years, then you take that house, you convert them either into a HMO or a service accommodation, and you rent it. And the difference between what you make on a HMO, let's say for example it was £1,000 profit, you split that with the landlord, or you pay their mortgage and you keep the rest. So it's not really a strategy that I indulge myself in, because I think, you know, in terms of the long run, after the contract's finished, the rent to rent ends, you've done all this work for 3 or 5 years to build up a business, but very quickly that business can evaporate once the landlord calls in their properties, because you've got no physical tangible assets you've actually built yourself. So it's I know it's something that a lot of people do. It's good for kind of generating income, but from a long-term sustainability perspective, I have an issue with it, because you're not going to own the asset itself. The seventh one is, I just alluded to it, around rent to rent, so it's serviced accommodation. So I also recently bought some blocks of flats. Out of those, I turned 2 of them into Airbnbs, so serviced accommodation, and rent them to holiday makers. So using Airbnb at the moment, mainly because of the safety mechanism that's built into that. So you can have reviews, you're checking who you're renting to, etc., etc. So you can actually buy and convert into serviced accommodation. The word of warning though is you make sure that you get the right mortgage product when you come to doing that. There are specific lenders who will lend on serviced accommodation with the serviced accommodation mortgage. So make sure you don't fall foul by taking either a normal Buytolet or a HMO mortgage or whatever. So make sure you get the specific product on it. And the last one from an 8 strategy is buy land and build. So this is where 2021, personally myself, I'm going to be engaging a lot more on, is to seek more land and develop them with planning permission and basically build from the ground up. And from a kind of returns perspective, you know, the returns then are significantly improved by doing that. It's a longer term game, much more capital intensive, much more project managerial skills required, but from a kind of returns perspective, it's much more lucrative. So here you have it. I've got 8 strategies that I would advise that you can choose from next year, and then from there on you can then decide which ones out of those you are going to pursue, and also watch the next video around the tactics of what I talk about, how you should go about doing those. So I'll see you in the next video.